The Istanbul Cipher. Chapter 13. The mosque barely registered at first glance. Tucked between a butcher and a car mechanic near the crumbling Theodosian walls, it looked more like a repurposed warehouse than a place of worship. A worn sign above the door read, Huzur Mescidi, Peace Mosque. But even the paint seemed tired of trying. Layla checked the coordinates again. This is it. It has to be. We stepped inside. Bare tile, muted carpet, fluorescent lights. No calligraphy, no dome. Just stillness. Imam Farooq appeared from a side hallway with a broom in one hand and a familiar, knowing smile. "I was wondering when you'd come," he said, brushing his hands clean. "You've been following the silence." Siebel stepped forward, unfurling a folded printout of their composite map. Fragments of satellite views, archival permits, AR scans. Farooq studied it, his brow furrowed in quiet recognition. My grandfather told me stories of these alignments. Places that don't show up on maps, but always had prayers inside them. Layla asked, "Did he ever describe them in detail?" Farooq nodded slowly. He said the real ones echoed differently, not in volume, but in memory. The floors remembered feet, the walls remembered breath. Isla gave me a look, half skepticism, half awe. We'd come for data. We were getting poetry. Farooq gestured us down a narrow hallway, past the wudu area and into a dark alcove stacked with old rugs and plastic crates. The air smelled of dust and rosewater. "Help me move this," he said, pointing to a warped shelving unit. Behind it, a cracked tile wall shimmered with faint age. As Emre swept his flashlight across it, the beam caught a shimmer. Faint carving etched beneath a thin layer of plaster. Layla read it aloud. "Truth buried in silence shall rise in code." My heart kicked. It wasn't just metaphor anymore. This was a marker, a breadcrumb left behind by people who weren't allowed to be remembered. And someone, somewhere, had tried to cover it. Emre crouched and tapped his tablet screen. "Let's see what's hiding underneath," he muttered. A second later, the AR filter kicked in. Through the lens, the faint carving on the wall transformed. Glowing lines emerged, pulsing faintly in augmented light. Not just a verse now, a pattern. Circular, complex, almost like a wheel. Siebel leaned over his shoulder. "That's the same cipher design we saw in the mosaic scans." "Nearly identical," Emre confirmed. "But this one's older. Less corrupted. Look, there's an alignment axis." Isla slid in beside him, her stylus already working. "Zoom in on the outer ring. Those aren't just decorative symbols. They're cardinal bearings." I watched them move together, like parts of an engine. Isla decoding symbols, Emre aligning projections, Siebel cross-checking against historical overlays. What began as a student project was now a multi-layered act of digital archaeology. "This is a compass," Isla said finally, "not just metaphorical. Literal." She spun her screen and showed us. From the current mosque location, the wheel pointed directly northeast, precisely toward the courtyard building from Farooq's folded coordinates. "It's not just showing direction," she added. "It's showing inheritance. Where the next piece of memory lives." Siebel stared at the glowing circle on the wall. So they left a map, but in a language no one bothered to preserve. Or in a language they knew would survive through us. Layla said quietly, I stepped back, letting the light of their app play across the ancient stone. The glowing cipher shimmered across 3 alphabets: Greek, Armenian, Arabic. A trilingual resistance etched in silence. They didn't just want to be remembered. They wanted to be found by the right eyes. Farouk returned with tea, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. My grandfather used to say truth travels fastest underground. You're proving him right. We weren't hunting ghosts anymore. We were chasing coordinates, etched in stone and verse and grief. And we were getting close. Farouk gestured us toward a narrow hallway behind the ablution area. "There's something you should see," he said, tone careful. We followed single file, ducking beneath a low beam into a storage alcove that smelled of old wood and winter dust. Disused prayer mats were stacked like forgotten letters. Shelves sagged under half-filled boxes and ceramic fragments no one had cataloged. "Here," he said, moving aside a rolled rug to reveal a crumbling patch of tile. The plaster had peeled, and beneath it, just visible in angled light, was the same symbol we'd seen glowing moments before, now carved into the wall itself. It was delicate, ancient, almost erased. I crouched beside it, flashlight held steady. This is the exact cipher wheel from the museum overlay. The same alignment marks. Isla knelt beside me, scanning it with the portable LiDAR unit. And it's pointing toward a site they tried to wipe. This isn't just a remnant. It's a relay point. Cybele was already overlaying the projection again. The scripts here, Greek, Armenian, Arabic, they're all positioned around a central verse. Listen. She read softly. "Truth buried in silence shall rise in code." Layla exhaled sharply. It's not a line from the poem, but it's a response to it. A shiver ran down my spine. The old floor creaked beneath our feet as if agreeing. Farouk stood near the door, hands clasped behind his back. This building once held many languages, not all spoken aloud. My grandfather told me. This alcove wasn't just storage. It was a hiding place. I looked up. "For people?" He nodded. "And for memory. Stories aren't always safe, but they're always waiting." In my hand, the scanner beeped softly. Data logged, coordinates set. Emre tapped his screen. "I think it's pointing us here." He spun the map. A blinking dot hovered over a building just 4 blocks away. Listed as a warehouse, but the footprint's wrong. Layla narrowed her eyes. "Let's go." The alley leading to the old courtyard reeked of diesel and damp rust. We moved quietly, street noise fading behind us, until only our footsteps echoed on broken cobblestones. Emre held up his phone. "The signal's bouncing, but we're close." Ayla pointed to a half-collapsed arch in the stone wall. Beyond it, a rusted metal gate chained shut. Vines crawled up from below the frame. On the peeling sign overhead, one word was still legible. DEPO, warehouse. Layla pressed her face to the bars. "There's more than storage in there. Look at that roof line." I stepped up beside her. A faint triangle jutted behind the more recent construction, barely visible, but familiar. A remnant of something older, buried in bureaucracy and brick. Cybele tapped the masonry with her knuckles. "Hollow. This wall's new, but the foundation's not. They built around it." Isla scanned the satellite image again. "See this footprint?" She circled the building's outline. Official records say 1 story, But this heat signature here, there's space underground. Another cistern? I asked. Maybe, she said. Or a crypt. Something big. Emre crouched by the padlock and ran a quick scan of the metal type. We could crack this, but not without noise. And someone definitely watches this place. Layla stepped back, eyes scanning the surrounding rooftops. Then we don't crack it. We study it. I pulled out my notebook and sketched the entry's proportions, labeling stress points and structural joints. We'll need a different route. No forced entry, not yet. We don't alert anyone until we know what we're walking into. Sybil raised her phone and took a photo of the door. She didn't say anything, but I saw the flicker of recognition in her expression, like some part of her already knew what was inside. Layla whispered, "This is it." No one challenged her. We stood there for a long moment, 5 bodies and 1 silence, staring through iron bars at the ghost of something we hadn't yet seen, but already believed in. Back at the youth center, the room glowed in a low hum of laptop screens and projection light. Emre hunched over his machine, typing like it owed him an apology. Isla paced in tight loops behind him, tapping her pen to her lip, muttering through half-finished theories. Sybil sat cross-legged on the floor, mosaic fragments spread out around her like shards of a memory. Each one scanned, cataloged, and tagged with coordinates. "Okay," Emre said finally. "Run it again. Overlay everything we've got." The mosque inscription, the mosaic fragments, the cipher from the museum scan. A burst of code flickered across the wall. The digital cipher wheel emerged, its perimeter ringed in characters from 3 alphabets: Armenian, Greek, and Arabic. A circle within a circle. The middle spun slowly. "Here's what's weird," Emre muttered. "They don't translate letter for letter. They translate conceptually. Each symbol is more like a memory anchor." Ayla frowned. "So it's not just language. It's intention." Sybil stepped forward and pointed. "There. That one. My grandfather embroidered it. I thought it was decorative, but..." Layla leaned closer. "What does it say?" Emre hit a key. The animation bloomed like a paper scroll unfolding in midair. Across the projection, the cipher translated into jagged phrases stitched across time and script. "We remembered together, so they buried us apart." The silence afterward was total. I found myself staring at it, as if it might rewrite itself. Layla's voice finally broke the quiet. They didn't just cover up a place. They divided a story. Sibel's jaw tightened, erased the shared parts so no one would know we ever belonged together. Ayla looked at me. "That's why this project matters. It's not just digital preservation, it's reunification." I nodded slowly. A cipher isn't just a puzzle. It's resistance. A way to say what they wouldn't let you write. And here it was, decoded by kids who refused to forget. The room had settled into that fragile quiet that follows awe. No one said anything as Emre saved the translation and closed the projection. Even the usual keyboard taps and humming hardware felt muted, like the place itself was holding its breath. On the main screen, our custom map pulsed with soft light. Pins dotted Istanbul in clusters, hovering memories now captured in code. And then Ayla's cursor hovered over the newest coordinate. "This is it," she said, voice steady. "The structure beneath the courtyard." Farouk's coordinates line up. The architecture overlays check out. Location status? I asked. She double-checked satellite records. Marked as a derelict warehouse. No listed heritage value. No preservation notice. But the substructure's wrong. There's more below. Siebel stepped closer to the screen. They mislabeled it. That's not neglect. That's intentional. With a few keystrokes, Emre added the site to the app's encrypted ledger. He hesitated a beat before naming it. Site 003, he murmured. Unknown name. Buried sanctuary, Siebel added quietly. That's what it is. On the map, the pin glowed a faint red, unlike the soft gold of the others. Layla frowned. Why red? Emre looked over his shoulder. That wasn't me. It registered that way automatically. Might be a flag from the security layer. We all stared at it. I felt the air shift in the room. Less triumph, more tremor. The kind that precedes an earthquake no one's quite ready for. They didn't just erase the place, I said. My voice sounded rough, even to my own ears. They erased the idea of it. That people could share something sacred. That memory could belong to more than one name. No one responded. They didn't need to. Across the room, Emre's terminal pinged once. Then again, a second IP address. Ministry of Culture. Internal. Emre turned, face drained. They know we're looking. I exhaled, slow and long. So it begins.